Trucker Dump, episode 126. On today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Tesla truck and change my opinion about one aspect of it a little bit. Troy from the Big Rig Banter podcast is going to dissect trucker pay for us. I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion. Yeah, of course. I'm going to point you to some awesome resources for any of your ELD questions and also truck weights. I got a new segment that's going to be a surprise. And for today's main topic, we're going to find out about right-way load scales. In the feedback section, Greg sent in a quick audio clip. Danielle sends in a long email about healthy tips, including some recipes you can make in your truck. And Trevor wrote in asking about getting jiggy in the truck. Well, stick around for that. Today's show is sponsored by East Insurance Group. You can learn more at eastinsurancegroup.com. We'll be talking about them more in a bit.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hello, Trucker Dumpers. Todd McCann here. For any of you new people listening, I am a 20-year company driver. I'm the author of not one, but two trucking ebooks. And as my listeners know, I am a cheapskate extraordinaire. I'm coming to you today from Hammond, Indiana, which is just close enough to Gary, Indiana, the armpit of America, to smell it. Isn't that great? Hey, I hope you guys had a great Christmas and a happy new year. Not too many hangovers. Hope everybody got back to work okay. Hope you got something good for Christmas. And, well, I got something awesome. Here's how this goes. Okay, every year at Christmas, I pretty much sit around watching people unwrap gifts because, well, I paid for most of them. But, you know, I get some enjoyment out of that. So I'm sitting there just enjoying watching the nephews and in-laws open up gifts and everything. And everything was all said and done, and it got quiet. And I just thought, what's everybody doing? Well, the evil overlord had popped into the room behind me, and she comes in and she sets this giant package in front of me. So, of course, I'm shocked as heck. I unwrap the gift, and what do I find in there? A bunch of packing and another smaller box. Yep, she pulled the old trick. You know the way that works. I'm, going through this thing, and I think I had to unwrap 4 total, maybe, to get to the bottom of it. And when I did, I found a new microphone. So I'm talking to you right now on that. It is an Audio-Technica AT2005 USB. Man, it is slick looking, and I think it sounds pretty good. And even cooler, it's got an awesome LED blue light on it that is really bright. So pretty happy about that, too. Almost pumped about the light as much as I am the sound. Anyway, I'm not even sure if you can tell. I don't have a good listening environment or recording environment. Actually, I have a great recording environment, which makes it not a great test for this microphone. But anyway, the whole idea for this mic is you have to get right up on top of it to hear anything. And hoping that's going to keep sound and noise out. We are going to see. Actually, I'm going to do a test of this right now and compare it to my older microphone so I can tell the difference, because this is my first comparison. So you guys get to witness it. Aren't you lucky? So, hey, like I was saying, you got to get right up on this mic. So let me scoot back just a little bit, and I'm about a foot away from the microphone now, and I barely hear myself in the headphones. And now I'm just turning my head to the side, and that I can barely hear that too, and got to get right back into the mic to hear it. It's going to be interesting to test that against my Yeti. So let's recite something so we can compare it. Let's cite something, very brilliant, very deep. Yeah, I think I'd come up with something like that. Ain't no party like a West Coast party, 'cause a West Coast party don't stop. All right, give me a second. I'm going to switch over to the Yeti. Okay, now I am talking on my ancient USB Blue Yeti mic. I'm about 6 inches away or so, and I'm going to step back about a foot, and I can still hear myself better. And I'm going to turn my head to the right, and I can still hear myself. Wow. It's going to be interesting to hear these played back. Anyway, ain't no party like a West Coast party, because a West Coast party don't stop. Well, that was interesting. I was not expecting them to sound that different. The USB, or the new one, has more bass in it. I can hear that. It sounds a little bit more distorted, honestly, to me, but I'm going to experiment with that. Maybe have to come off the microphone just a tad bit. Anyway, for now, you're getting what you're getting, because I've been driving all night. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. Oh, the only reason I'm doing this is because it is the 26th of January, and I am trying to get one of these out by the end of the month. Not sure if that's going to happen. We will see. So, hey, let's kick this off by telling you about an app. This app is called Teledoc. Now, I knew I had this. I think I had heard about this app before, but I just never... I think they actually reached out to me a long time ago about promoting this on the podcast, and I just didn't for some reason. Or maybe I did and don't remember it. But anyway, the evil overlord had an occasion to use it recently when she was sick. And, you know, she was like, I don't want to get dressed and go to the doctor and everything. And I was like, well, just use the Teledoc, because we just got some new insurance. Actually, most of the insurance is worse than our old insurance. But one good thing about it is we have Teledoc as part of our service now. By the way, that's spelled Teledoc. And you can check that out at teledoc.com. So anyway, the way this works is it's an app on your phone, and you can either call or do a voice chat, and somebody will get with you in under 10 minutes. Now, this is a licensed doctor, and they can give you prescriptions for stuff like, cold and flu, bronchitis, allergies, pink eye, skin infections, skin rashes, abrasions, warts, and they can even do stuff like behavioral health, give you medications for that, like for depression or addiction and stuff like that. So it's really kind of a cool service, and the evil overlord said it went just as I thought it would. It was very quick. It was very painless. She got her meds, and she did have to get dressed to go down and get them. Unfortunately, they wouldn't deliver them to him, but she just had to go down to Walgreens and grab her meds, and she was very happy with the service. So the thing is, I'm not sure. From looking at the website, I don't think it's available for individuals. It looks like you have to go through a provider or something like that. So I'm just telling you, because you might not actually know that you have this as part of your insurance. And if you do, man, it is really handy, especially for truckers. Because think about it. I mean, we're out here on the road. You got to find a place to drop the trailer. You got to find an urgent care center, which is going to charge you out the yin yang, and if they can even fit you in at all. It's just horrible. It's a dreadful experience. I had to do that on Thanksgiving Day one time, and it was just awful being sick in the first place on Thanksgiving Day, but having to go and find an urgent care center that was open and, like I said, drop trailer, it was just a pain. If I had had Teledoc, I would have called somebody, and then I would have just had to go into the local pharmacy. But anyway, check that out if you think you might have it. Teledoc.com. So, hey, December 19th has come and gone. I have been on eLogs since 2010, I think, so it's no big deal to me. Actually, the only big deal to me that happened was someone hit me the very first day of eLogs. Yes, believe it or not, I'm going to blame this on eLogs, because he did. So here I am. I'm at a shipper, or I'm at a receiver. I had delivered the night before, needed to take a 10-hour break, so I go and park across from the docks, facing the docks. There's plenty of room, no big deal. I know any decent driver is not going to have any problem getting in these docks. Well, I'm laying there in bed, and you feel that, and you feel the truck just moving around, and you know immediately what happened. So I threw on some clothes, went outside. There's a guy staring at my passenger front bumper up there, and he had hit me while he was backing in with his right front. So he just wasn't paying attention. He came around. He apologized. He said, "I'm so sorry." He goes, "I'm in a rush because of e-logs today. It's my first full day on them." And I said, so you're in a rush? You're low on time?" And he said, "No, that's the thing. I'm not low on time. I just feel like I'm in a rush." And that sounds crazy, but I remember that distinctly when I first started e-logs. I remember thinking I was in a hurry all the time. That clock is ticking down on you, and you just feel like you have to make the most of every second of the day. I found myself speeding more. I found myself taking exit ramps and especially cloverleafs faster than I should have. And it just took me a while to settle down and realize that it is what it is. I'm going to run out of time when I run out of time. And this is a lesson this guy's going to have to learn too. And all you dealing with e-logs for the first time, trust me, it gets better. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Drive like you normally do. Don't get crazy. Unless you do drive crazy, of course. Don't do that. Anyway, hey, you might have some questions about your ELDs. And if you do, I found it excellent. Well, actually, I didn't find it. I don't go searching for this kind of stuff, but someone brought this to my attention. So it's a frequently asked questions on electronic logging devices, and you can find it at fleetcomplete.com. I'll put a link in the show notes because it's kind of a long URL. This is an excellent article. I mean, it covers everything you could possibly imagine. This is the kind of thing I don't do on the trucker now. This thing took research. It's done by a guy named Mark Monsian. Hope I'm getting that right, Mark. Sorry if I'm not. But anyway, I mean, this goes over the exemptions. It goes over registration. It goes over the differences between AOBRDs and ELDs, the difference between AOBRDs and logging software programs. It covers everything you can possibly imagine. It is not probably an article you want to just sit down and read because it is long. I mean, you're welcome to. It's well written, but this is kind of one of those things. If you have a question about ELDs, check out this website. It's on fleetcomplete.com, and I almost guarantee you're going to get your question answered reading this thing. So check that out. Hey, I said I wanted to change my tune on the Tesla a little bit. If you remember from the last episode, I was talking about the new Tesla electric truck, and I was talking briefly about how open it is and how you're sitting in the middle and you just have glass all around you, and so your visibility is great. Well, I was on, sadly, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I was on Quora.com. That's Quora.com. It's kind of a question and answer. You can go in there and ask questions, and supposedly somebody who knows what they're talking about is supposed to answer, and you get some surprisingly good answers over there. But anyway, somebody had asked about what truckers thought about this new Tesla, and one of the guys answered, and he brought up a really good point that I was not really thinking about. I just said that this thing has a lot of glass and it's got a lot of visibility. The problem is, he pointed out that yes, it's got visibility, but it's got visibility in all the wrong places. I mean, okay, I can see out my right side better. I can see, over on the shoulder better. Okay, fine, I guess. But where I'm really missing is on the left-hand side, because now I'm relying on a camera, and I can't really just glance over my shoulder and look to see what's to my left, and also with the seating position in this Tesla, you're right in the middle. It doesn't put you off to the left-hand side. So like I say, you can't just glance down and look at, what's riding right beside you. You're relying on a camera. And I have had passenger side camera systems on trucks before, and granted this was a long time ago, but I never fully trusted that thing. I always wanted to look in my main mirror on the side, and preferably if you have one of those hood mounted mirrors, those things are even better. But anyway, I just thought I would change. I wish I could point out the guy in the article, but I couldn't find the article again. I looked everywhere, but my Google food just must really suck because I couldn't find it. But anyway, this was one more thing to think about the Tesla truck. I did see a really quick video. It was like a 15-second video of the Tesla truck. Somebody took a video of it out on the road. They saw it, and it was going by. And it's pretty quiet. It was pretty wild. That thing was zipping too, though. You know, that high torque on that electronic motor. Motors, since it's got 4 of them. Man, it was cooking right along. I don't mind the looks of them, but, you know, me and the guys in the Slack group were talking about this, the Trucker Dump Slack group, which you can join, by the way, truckerdump@gmail.com, and I'll get you an invite out. But we were talking about the looks of it, and some of the guys really don't like the looks of it, but I'm not bothered by futuristic looking stuff. I just want it to be practical, and I want it to work. That's remains to be seen. Okay, next up, let me put out a shout for some help. All right, I am always looking for images for my blog. If you're listening to the podcast, you may not care what goes on the blog. You may never look at it, but there are a lot of people who still read the blog, and I need images for that. I need a photo or, you know, some kind of graphic or something like that. Okay, now there are some free sites, and there are Creative Commons photos that I can use sometimes, but then I got to give, you know, I don't mind giving credit to the person, but trucking photos are very limited when it comes to free photos that you can use on your website. So I'm reaching out to you people. I'm assuming we have some truckers out there who are photographers. I would like to know if you can point me to a site. Maybe it's your site. If you take photos of trucking related stuff that I could possibly use, you know, maybe I could just send me the link, and I'd be happy to, you know, peruse through it. And if I find a photo that I can use for the blog, I would happily give you, get permission, and I would link to your Flickr account or your Twitter account or whatever you want me to link to. I just am always looking for new photos, and there's always a shortage. So if you can help out with that, or if you just know where you can get good trucking related pictures that I don't have to pay out the nose for, point me at that too, please. Okay, now here's the part of the show you guys just love, some self-promotion, because, well, who else is going to do it? It's got to be me. So anyway, I was on a couple of podcasts recently. The first one is called Payload. It's a new podcast by the people at Truck Driver Power. That's JT Peters. He's the CEO over there. I'm going to have him on the show, interviewing him about the Truck Driver Power app, by the way, soon. So anyway, this podcast, it's the first one that they did. I think it came out all right. We're going to see. It's called Trucker Talk with Todd McCann, and we just talk about different topics, you know, about coming into the industry. There's lots of different topics there. So I put a link in the show notes to that, or you can find the Payload podcast on iTunes, just look on iTunes. You'll find it, or Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Got a podcast player? Just type in Payload podcast into it. It should pop up. And of course, there will be a link in the show notes to that. And next up, I wanted to point you at another great resource like that ELD frequently asked questions I mentioned earlier. This one is called Understanding Semi-Truck Weight and Dimension Regulations, and it is a PDF that you can download. It is by Paul Jakubicek, and I had to ask him how to spell that out phonetically so I wouldn't screw it up again. This is the same guy who I have talked about before, the bigtruckguide.com. You can find this PDF and other stuff he does over there. I read it. It is a really great resource. I did learn something about scaling out loads that I did not know, or the way things were figured, especially on the steer axle, had me confused a bit, but this straightened it right up. So you can go over to bigtruckguide.com, check it out. I highly recommend it. If you have any questions about truck weights, if you're a newbie, I would really advise getting this thing. And also, bigtruckguide.com has a PDF you can download that has all of the bridge laws and how far your axles need to be back. Or you can just use the website for that, which is what I do. I just have a I just made a little home screen icon on my phone so I can just tap it anytime I need to look down through there. And I did find an error on that, and I reported it to him, and he fixed it right away. So he's very responsive. So that's cool, too. So go check that out, bigtruckguide.com. And thanks to Paul for pointing that to me. I was not aware you had written a book. Welcome to the club. Okay, the next bit of patting myself on the back is an article that was written called Top Podcast Every Type of Trucker Can Enjoy. And guess who made the list? Yep, Trucker Dump Podcast. This is from the United Truck Driving School out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. You can check that out at unitedtruckschool.net. And I'll put a link in the show notes to that, obviously. I appreciate being on that list. Makes me feel all happy inside. All right, let's finish up all this back patting with the second podcast I mentioned being on. This was the boys over at Big Rig Banter. That's Connor and Troy. They had me on episode number 12. It should be released by the time you get this. If not, it will be shortly. This was a podcast on relationships, and they thought, well, who better to talk to than Todd, because he had the evil overlord on the truck with him for all those years, and now she's off the road. So I've experienced both aspects of that, solo and wife at home. So you guys can check that out. That's at bigrigbanter.com, or just check out that in your podcast app. Also, there'll be a link in the show notes, obviously, to this as soon as it is released. And thanks to Connor and Troy for having me on the show. It was pretty awesome. Had a lot of fun with those guys. Hey, speaking of Troy, let's get on to his article. You know, in the last episode, we heard from his partner in crime, Connor Smith, on an article called 5 Top Issues in Commercial Truck Driving. Well, Troy was super jealous. I mean, he was like so jealous, like really, totally. Okay, not really. But anyway, he sent me his own article. This one is called Dissecting the Pay Issue for Truckers. Again, this is by Troy Diffenderfer of the Big Rig Banter podcast and alltruckjobs.com. If you're looking for a job, head over there. Take it away, Troy.
All right, so thanks, Todd. Yeah, we just wanted to come on the show. You know, Connor and I are often tackling issues over on Big Rig Banter, and I just wanted to kind of dissect the pay issue for truckers. You know, it's no secret that one of the most hotly debated topics in the trucking industry deals with the amount of compensation that truckers are getting for his or her services. And let's face it, we all want to make more money, but the real question is whether or not we deserve it, and whether the trucking company can increase wages without compromising the quality of the service. I mean, it's similar in any service field. But this issue has left many divided over whether or not an increase of pay would be beneficial for the trucking industry as a whole. And when dissecting this pay issue for truckers, it's important to look at the benefits of the industry as a whole and not just the benefits of each individual driver. So let's break things down a little. We have a few topic points that we want to get to. You know, truckers are already getting paid. While many assume that truckers are looking for their first raise in a long while, this is actually not true. There's a study that's been done by Glassdoor that found trucker wages have been steadily increasing over the last few years, with the biggest month-to-month increase coming in at almost 8% last year. With the driver shortage forcing trucking companies to present a more attractive career and improving the economic landscape, trucking companies have, in fact, been increasing wages for their truckers over the years. But they're not paid for all of their time. Despite an increase of wages, many truckers feel that it's unfair to not be paid for all the time they spend on the road. I know you've probably dealt with it sitting in traffic. You're not technically getting paid, especially when you're sitting in traffic on the way home. The system of compensating only by mileage is antiquated, and because some carriers just pay the drivers when the wheels are moving, not for their time they're filling out paperwork, fueling their trucks, or waiting to be loaded and unloaded, that's a lot of money left on the table and a lot of your time that you're wasting. Many truckers feel that this is unfair because despite the rig not being in motion, they're still performing tasks that are part of the job requirements, and they're still doing work and time's being spent. And you guys feel like these companies are essentially getting free labor, which we totally understand. And while companies themselves are pointing to the already increased wages for an answer, Many truckers feel like these companies are essentially getting free labor while the companies themselves are pointing to the already increased wages as an answer. But here are just a few things that truckers are not paid for. This includes sitting in traffic jams, waiting in customs, border crossings, loading and unloading, DOT scales and DOT inspections, weighing those hauls, performing circle checks, company safety meetings and seminars, weather delays. So there's a lot you guys don't get paid for, and that's no surprise that it has a lot of truckers up in arms. And then finally, let's get to the hot topic. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. You have your own opinion on this, Todd, but the ELD solution. One piece of technology might just solve this pay issue for truckers. These ELDs have the ability to track drivers via GPS as well as monitor fuel usage, mileage, and many other aspects of trucking, leading many companies to believe that they will be able to properly calculate the appropriate wages for each trip. However, many truckers feel like this technology overlooks all the little things, things we mentioned previously, and these truckers are encouraging companies to switch from a per-mile pay scale to an hourly one that will compensate truckers for all of their time, which we both agree that is a better idea. But just to wrap things up, and we thank you, Todd, for letting us come on here. While it's unlikely there's a foolproof way to make everyone happy, it's still important that truckers and trucking companies work together for a compromise. We know the trucker shortage is looming, so we don't want to lose any more truckers, but we also want them to be fairly compensated. If trucking companies have data that shows a pay increase will actually hurt the quality of the industry, then show it. If truckers can make a case that these steady pay increases simply aren't enough, then they should present why they think that and why they deserve an increase in wages. Either way, communication will be key when it comes to finding a final solution for this pay issue. But thanks again, Todd. We really appreciate it, and that's our little breakdown of the pay issue for truckers. Thanks.
No, Troy, thank you for sparing my listeners for having to listen to me for a few minutes. I'm sure they really appreciated that. So, hey, I just wanted to address a couple of things you said in here that I thought were interesting. Well, for one thing, like most of the things you mentioned that we don't get paid for, that's right. For most companies, there are a few companies out there that I've heard of who will actually pay you to have a DOT inspection. Of course, that's not that big of a deal because, I mean, how long does an inspection take? I mean, I got a level 3 the other day that was just level 3 is just paperwork, basically, and I was out of there in 9 minutes. I don't get paid for that, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But, you know, that kind of thing is happening. Carriers are paying for little stuff like that now and then. Another thing you mentioned was, the hourly. There are actually companies I've heard of that are actually paying per hour, and they're paying a decent wage. And that has always been my biggest problem with hourly pay is I would love it. I think it's great. I think it would cause the shippers and receivers to get their act in gear and get us loaded quicker. But the problem is truckers are always undervalued, it seems like. So I have a feeling what would happen is if they decided to go hourly, they would set the rate too low. And, here's something that isn't going to help either. There is this thing called the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA, that basically says that truckers do not need to be paid time and a half for anything over 40 hours in a week. And this is just bizarre to me. I don't really know why, but if you're interested in reading more about this, there is an excellent article over at askthetrucker.com. And it's an article by Alan Smith called Overtime Pay for Truck Drivers. And it's got all the dirty details in it. But I don't know. I just don't have much faith in the companies to come up with an hourly wage that is fair. Like I said, I know there is one company that is doing it. They're called Schmidt OFC, I believe. And they are a tanker company, and they claim that they pay up to $71,000 a year just by doing hourly pay. I'm not sure how they're doing that, but it's interesting. I'd like to interview them sometime and find out how they're doing that. Maybe I'll put that on my list of things to do. Yeah, like I'm going to get to that. Anyway, I want to thank Troy for contributing to the show. Appreciate it. And again, check out bigrigbanter.com where you can hear me on the next episode, or check out alltruckjobs.com.
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
Okay, obviously this is a new segment of the show I was talking about. Perhaps not so obvious, hopefully not obvious anyway, is that I'm in a different location. I am now in Eagleville, Missouri recording. There is a screaming reefer next to me. It keeps going up and down and up and down. I love that when I'm sleeping, but I don't like it when I'm recording. So hopefully this mic is not picking it up. That is why I say hopefully it's not obvious. So anyway, what is this new segment? Well, clearly it's got something to do with food. Okay, I know this idea originated in the Trucker Dump Slack group. I think it started because Trucker Bob is always showing us pictures of places that he's eaten and stuff like that. He likes to go to nice restaurants, and he knows about a million places. And Aaron, who is a new guy over there, thought, that'd be a good segment for the Trucker Dump podcast. And you know what? That's a brilliant idea, which obviously, didn't come from me. So thank you to Aaron for this. Okay, so what is this segment? Truckers know good places to eat. Well, in theory, at least the ones who get out of their truck and not like me and just sit in the truck all the time. So here's the thing. I want you to send in an audio clip of your favorite place to eat that you can get to in a truck, or you can walk to from a truck stop within walking distance, or maybe a short cab ride. Nothing that you got to go 40 miles for. That's cheating. So something fairly close that's a fairly inexpensive cab ride, or maybe you can just walk it, something like that. Or maybe you can actually park your truck nearby. So that is the idea of the segment. Now here's the thing. I'm not accepting these as email. I'm not going to read it. I'm tired of reading stuff all the time. Well, I'm not tired of it. I'll take it. I'll take regular feedback if I can get it. But on this particular thing, this is a podcast, and this is only going to be on the podcast version. So I want audio. So I'm going to require that you do an audio clip if you want to be a part of this. And I hope you do, because I know you guys got some awesome places to eat out there. Now, I do not want you trying to write down all these directions and stuff like this while you're driving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a special page up on abouttruckdriving.com where eventually this will build up over time, and I will write down all the directions to it, the name of the place, the address, phone numbers, all that good stuff. So eventually you'll just be able to say, hey, I'm in the Chicago area. I wonder if any of the trucker dumpers have reported a decent place to eat around here. That's the idea of it. So anyway, I recruited Trucker Bob to do the first one since he was the inspiration behind it. And he did an excellent job, and this will give you an idea of what we're looking for. So I'll just let Bob take it away.
Greetings, trucker dumpers. Trucker Bob here. I like seafood, good seafood, and I'd like to tell you about Jimmy's Seafood in Baltimore, or as the locals call it, Jimmy C's. This place has the best crab cakes I've ever had, not to mention a great raw bar and everything seafood and fast Wi-Fi. They have a huge circular bar where you can order anything on the menu, and a separate dining room, not to mention a retail takeout area where I like to pick out a pint of fresh picked local crab meat when it's in season. I always get some clams or oysters on the half shell to start with, some steamed peel and eat shrimp with Old Bay seasoning and onions, and of course crab cakes, not fried, but broiled with melted butter on the side. You can get there one of two ways. Park at the TA Baltimore, I-95 exit 57, and take a cab or Uber for the 2-mile trip to Jimmy's Famous Seafood at 6526 Hollowbird Avenue. Look it up on your smartphone apps. Or you can park your tractor or trailer on the side street and walk 150 yards to the restaurant. From the TA, turn left on Boston Street, then left as if you were getting on I-95 South. Cross under I-95, and instead of turning left onto I-95 South, keep going straight for another 200 feet, and then turn left at the traffic light onto Ponca Street. which will after a half mile or so curve to the left and turn into Hollerbird Avenue. Go about 1.5 miles on Hollerbird and Jimmy's will be on the left-hand side. About 150 feet before Jimmy's, turn right onto Portal Street and then another quick right onto Seaforth Street. Follow Seaforth to the end, and at the cul-de-sac, make a U-turn, and then park anywhere you find a spot for your rig. This is an industrial street, and there may be drop trailers lining the street. Walk to Jimmy's and enjoy, but do not plan on taking your 10-hour break there. Better to fuel and park free at the TA, or park for a fee and take an Uber. This is not a cheap fast food restaurant. Go to jimmysfamousseafood.com and check out the menu, prices, and hours before going. If you have the day off in Baltimore and want to go exploring, there are 3 main neighborhoods that you can get to by cab or Uber. The Inner Harbor, which is overpriced and crowded with tourists. Fells Point on the waterfront, which is old buildings, cobblestone streets, and some of the best bars and pubs in the city. And the Canton neighborhood, which is equally old but more residential with a neighborhood square lined with pubs and restaurants. Water taxis can take you between Fells Point and the Inner Harbor, or you can take a cab or walk the 2 miles. Have fun exploring, eat well, and don't stay out late.
Thank you, Trucker Bob. That was perfect. Okay, let's keep these things about 3 minutes or less, and let's make sure, if you're going to do this, pull over, stop the truck, and record. You can write out a little script if you want, like Bob did, or you can just wing it. Winging it can sometimes make you go long-winded, evidenced by my podcast. And just send those in to truckerdump@gmail.com. Seriously, folks, this recording part is not that hard. Most of you have smartphones, if you're listening to this podcast, and you can just open up your voice recorder app, which is undoubtedly in your phone, hit the record button, record what you have to say, send it off directly from your phone. It's not that hard. I'm really looking forward to this segment. I think we're going to find lots of cool places to eat, and maybe it'll even get my butt out of the truck. Probably not. But anyway, as you may have noticed, I don't have a name for this segment yet, and I would like to come up with something. I mean, I'm pretty boring. First thing I thought of was trucker food. That's really boring. I thought trucker eats. That's not bad. Trucker grub. That's kind of hard to say. I don't know. Come up with some ideas. Email me at truckerdump@gmail.com, and maybe you can name the segment. That would be cool. And if you're the one who names it, I'll be sure to name you on the podcast. What a way to start your year. Whew. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by East Insurance Group. You can find them at eastinsurancegroup.com/truckerdump, all one word, truckerdump. Or you can call them at 443-304-9927. You know, insurance is a fact of life. And as someone who owns your own truck, you really need good insurance. Especially with lawyers out there who are headhunting, you know, with names like Hammer and stuff like that. You know, you got a target on your back. You need good insurance. East Insurance Group can give that to you. Here's what they can offer. They have lightning fast service. Often you can call, get a quote, get everything set up, and be ready to go in about 24 hours, sometimes less. So they're super, super fast. The plans are built for you specifically. You're going to call them, you're going to talk to them, they're going to find out what you need, they're going to make suggestions, you're going to find out the perfect plan that suits your needs. And here's something novel in today's world. You get direct access to your agent. I don't mean you're going to call and they'll put you in touch through the receptionist. They're going to give you their freaking cell phone number. So, hey, if you ever need them, you got them on the horn right there. How cool is that? So, hey, they don't just do truck insurance. They've got auto, home, rental, business, commercial auto, commercial property, trucking insurance. They've got it all. They can do it all. They're licensed in Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Kansas, Illinois, Ohio, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. So check them out at eastinsurancegroup.com/truckerdump. Or you can call for a free quote at 443-304-9927. And tell them you heard about it on the Trucker Dump podcast. Thanks to East Insurance Group for sponsoring the show. All right, on to the main topic for the day. You know, I had a blog post pretty much written up. I was about 2,000 words into it when something happened, and I don't know if I forgot to save. I don't normally do that, but it could have been me. But I've also got some kind of weird, buggy blogging software I've been working with. So I'm not sure who's at fault, but when I reopened the file, it was 100 words instead of 2,000. So I was way behind. So I was very grateful that I already had this interview in the can from before. I was planning on running it in February, but now it fills the purpose of January. Well, hopefully, if this podcast makes it out in January. Anyway, let's get on with the interview. Okay, now for this interview. Here is the thing. Way back in like the late 90s, I remember talking to this trucker one time back when I was working on the docks, and I was like, how do you know how heavy this load is? And he goes, well, I just look at this here gauge right here on my dash. And I thought, what kind of sorcery is that? It made no sense to me whatsoever, you know. And last year I ran into a guy at a Georgia Pacific up in Michigan, and he had this weird little box on the side of his trailer. And I looked at it from afar and I thought, that's weird. I've seen boxes kind of back more towards the tandems that were for adjusting airbags and stuff like that, but I had no idea what this thing was set about halfway on the midway on the trailer. And so I walked up and I said, hey man, what's that? What's that box? Can I take a picture of your box? And then I thought, that's kind of a weird question to ask somebody if they can take a picture of their box, but he was very kind. So I got a picture of that, but I still had no idea how it worked. And quite honestly, he didn't much either. So that is why I have brought on some people from Right Way Load Scales. We have the product engineer, Ryan Backstrand. He's on here. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
And we have the marketing manager, Korina Velasco, in case Ryan gets confused on anything. Is that about right?
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. So we're doing a little dual interview here. Okay. First off, Right Way Load Scales. What are they? Give us a brief description and we'll get into more detail later on.
Yeah. So onboard load scales can be connected to almost any tractor or trailer. And usually connect them to like a drive axle and the trailer axle. And it will give you your on the ground weight for that axle group. And so by using combinations of those gauges, sometimes we can get the whole truck, depending on the configuration. We can get steer, drive, and trailer. Sometimes the drivers only need just their drives or their trailer. It's mostly whatever's helpful for them.
Oh, like I said, it sounds like magic to me. Sounds crazy.
Yeah, well, it uses the air pressure in the airbags, or in the case of like a spring suspension, we measure the strain on the axle.
Oh, I thought this was totally just an air thing. I had no idea that it was, you could use it on springs also. Right.
Yeah, they can be a little finicky, like the air systems work really well as long as you're on level ground. You can be even out in a field, and they're still pretty good. But the spring suspension, it's all about consistency. So, you want to be calibrating and weighing on the same
same surface every time, basically. So know exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty much got to be concrete. Gravel won't do it. It's got to be nice level concrete for the spring suspension to work right.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't, that the air has more leniency. I kind of figured the same thing. It would need concrete underneath it for a solid, but.
Yeah, that's best, but the air stuff's a little more forgiving.
Right. And these guys who are, running these hoppers out in the middle of fields, they don't really have that option. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say are the benefits of this type of weighing system over a traditional scale like CAT or Interstate or one of those other ones?
Yeah, so a CAT scale, they're not portable. You can't take them with you. So
yeah, no doubt about that.
Right. Yeah. So the guy, he goes and gets loaded up, or the driver, and they pretty much have to guess. Well, that's about right. and then he's got to drive to a CAT scale and check. And if he's overweight, they've got to go back and sometimes have to go back and unload. Sometimes you can get away by sliding the tandems or moving the fifth wheel, that kind of thing. But either way, with an onboard scale, you can just check right there while you're being loaded, and there's no guesswork.
Yeah, that's really cool. I tell you what, my last podcast was called The Overweight Axle Debacle, and it was exactly that situation. I had to go back to this place 5 times to get that load weighed right. And each time, because there was no CAT scale, well, actually, there was one a bit closer to where I was at, but it wasn't the direction I was heading, so I kept going the other way, assuming that they would get it right eventually.
Yeah.
So, I drive 30 miles one way and 30 miles back, and I did that 4 times, until they got it right on the 5th time. And, I mean, I've even driven longer than that. I remember one time I had to drive like 90 miles from the middle of Virginia to get to this the CAT scale in Roanoke, and it was overweight, had to go back. That's 180 miles lost. It's just awful. So I could have really used one of those. Where were you guys then?
Yeah, I've talked to some of these guys doing lumber, where they're out in the woods getting loaded up, and a lot of these guys have spring suspension trailers, so they can't actually check it while they're being loaded, but they can at least get down to pavement, before they get too far away, and they can check. And a lot of they're usually measuring gross weight, so they're allowed 80,000. But once they get to a certain point, the lumber mill or lumber yard will turn them away. They'll say, you're 85,000, you got to go back. So they'll have to drive all the way back, unloaded, overloaded to take off one log. And they're not allowed to carry chainsaws either. They've had a few people try to do that, where they just have a chainsaw and they'll cut off a piece of it and set it on the road somewhere.
Yeah, roll it in the ditch. Oh, that's classic. That's awesome. Leave it up to the trucker's inventive mind. Yeah. Okay. Well,
they put a stop to that.
Yeah. Well, another thing with this is CAT scale costs money. I mean, I remember when it was $8. When I first started, I think it was $8, and it's up to what, 12 now? Is that about right? 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, 11, and then $2 for a reweigh. So, how much would you say the average owner operator spends on scales each year, ground scales?
Yeah, so I kind of just did a bunch of work, kind of trying to figure this out for some of our customers, and you can kind of assume and see how it would change depending on each driver, depending what you're driving, what you're loading, where you're going. But if you just go off the basis that a CAT scale ticket costs around $11, and just say the average truck driver maybe weighs twice a week, you do the math, that ends up being anywhere around $80 a month. So 80 times 12 months, you're looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,000 or more, depending on, your situation. But our mechanical gauges start at $100. So even on the low side, around $500 through the year, you're kind of making your money back within the first few months of buying our scales. So we really want to kind of drive home that this kind of portable use and not having to constantly, like you said, 5, 4, 3 times have to drive back to your shipper just to figure out, what is the general weight of this thing, and am I going to get a ticket, or, basically just knowing your situation on the road.
Yeah, there's the risk of getting a ticket. There's the cost of the scale, and there's also, all that money going out the stacks and fuel, too. And if you want to be all green about it, the emissions that come from that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Okay, so you mentioned cost. I had no idea you could get into something like this for as little as $100. What does that include?
So the $100 includes just our straight mechanical gauge. That would be for something like the in-dash gauge. So kind of like what you were talking about, you saw on your friend's truck. Mm-hmm. So it'll fit pretty much anywhere where you have like the typical PSI gauge. So the same size, you just replace it and basically plug it in the same way. And that's what you would get. If you're looking at more of like the digital options, the exterior options, you kind of get into a little bit higher prices, but you're still looking at $300. And then the pricier of our options is basically like the Bluetooth load scale that we have. So that is where it would connect to your smartphone, so you can kind of see your weights through our smartphone app. And that's our higher end stuff. But even at that rate, you're still looking at only about $500.
Yeah. That sounds really truckerish, just being able to sit in your truck and look at it and not actually have to get out and look at a gauge, heaven forbid.
Yeah, exactly. Everything on your smartphone.
Yeah.
Yeah. In some cases, it actually ends up being less expensive to go with like one of the Bluetooth exterior gauges, depending on the setup. We have a gauge that has two airline ports on it, so you can run your drives and your trailer, and it'll estimate the steer weight all on one gauge. And otherwise, you would have to use two of our mechanical gauges to do that, and it almost becomes a wash at that point.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering how that if it can do the steer and how it does that. So you're saying it's just an estimation, basically?
It is, yeah. It's pretty much an industry standard. The weight is always coming down in the same place where the trailer attaches to the fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can know that, 40% goes to the steer, and well, it's not that much. It's 30% goes to the steer and 70% goes to the drives.
Yeah.
So, unless you move the fifth wheel, that ratio stays the same. So during calibration, you enter in all your low weights, then you go get loaded, enter in all your heavy weights. And our gauge just says, okay, for every 200 pounds on the drives, there was 20 pounds on the steer.
Okay. Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And, I honestly, I rarely even bother. I mean, I look when I get my scale ticket as to what my steer is, but I don't usually worry about it. I mean, the legal limit, if you figure up to 34,000 on both axles, that leaves 12,000 on the steer, but I've had it, like 13 before. Nobody's ever said a word to me. It really has more to do with, your tires and everything. It's more complicated than just the 12,000. I just don't really worry about it, honestly. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it if you're getting an estimate. An estimate is better than nothing, right?
Right. Yeah, I get that story a lot. And it actually is more like the driver just wants to see their gross weight. They want to look down and be able to see, okay, I'm under 80,000.
Uh-huh.
And to be able to have that steer estimate in there, at least it adds in that extra 12,000 that wouldn't be in that. They don't want to look down and have to add the 12 in their head,
Yeah, once again, heaven forbid, a trucker. Hey, I'm a trucker, been one for 20 years. I'm insulting myself here too. So, all right. So you mentioned that, you can get in for as little as $100. You can go up to, did you say 300 for the digital? 400, 500? What was it?
The digital starts at 350.
Okay.
For like a single, axle group, non-Bluetooth.
Okay.
And for like a dual sensor Bluetooth, which could do your whole tractor trailer, I believe it's $595. So right around 600.
Okay. So you'd make that back in your first year, more than likely, if you haul a lot of heavy loads.
Yeah. And that's not even counting the hidden costs, like you were saying.
Yeah. Fuel and all that extra junk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay, so do these things come, is it just the gauge that you get, or is there a kit? Is there hoses to go with it? Because am I understanding right, you're going to have to hook up some hoses, or how does the system actually install and how does it work?
Yeah, so if you are on airbags, drives and trailer, then you just tee into one of the airbags from each group. So you just grab whatever the most convenient airbag is from the drives, run an airline up to the gauge. And then same thing for the trailer. We have a quick disconnect kit that we sell that can get you from the trailer all the way up to the dash if need be, with a quick disconnect airline in between. And so it just depends on what your truck setup's like. That's why we sell we have install kits, but they're separate. So when you buy the gauge, you get the gauge and then like a bracket to mount it, that kind of thing for our exteriors. Mm-hmm. And then depending on what gauge you bought, we have 3 different install kits. We've got kind of our simple kit that's just airline and T-fittings to get you to your dash gauge or exterior gauge. Mm-hmm. And the digitals, it's basically the same kit, but it includes a power cable. if they're digitals.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yep. And then that quick disconnect kit to get you from the trailer up to the truck if need be.
Okay. Now, do you need one of those T's on each airbag?
No, just a T into like whichever one's most convenient, because all those airbags are tied together from the factory. They all have the same air pressure in them. Mm-hmm.
I am not mechanical at all, even something around my house, if a doorknob needs to be changed, my wife's ready to call the handyman, 'cause she's afraid I'm going to screw something up. So I don't understand any of this stuff. So just tie into one, and then all those airbags are tied together.
That's right.
Okay. And that goes for the tractor also.
Yep.
Okay. And we have like at least a couple hundred dealers that we work with across the country. And I know a handful in each state do kind of like an install program. So they've installed, a bunch of our stuff. So we're definitely always welcoming anybody to kind of reach out to us and say, hey, I don't, kind of like you're saying, I don't want anything to do with this mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
I just want somebody to install this for me. And there's definitely dealers that we work with across the country that can do this.
Yeah, that would definitely be me. But
yeah.
But if you are handy, you can do this yourself. It sounds like a fairly simple thing if you're handy.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of a hot rodder. I've got a bunch of old cars, so this stuff is
I do
gravy
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of drivers out there that I would say. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that at least half of them are doing their own install.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think if you're a trucker, you tend to be kind of a gearhead just by nature, which makes me a weirdo oddball. But that's all right. I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is going to doubt that. All right, so, so it sounds like to me this is really designed for owner operators and not company drivers. Company driver wouldn't have any reason to purchase this, would they?
That's actually
because we don't own the truck, right?
Right. Well, in your case, and this is something we're still learning as a company, because we do work with fleets like Prime, who have bought our scales from us for years and for their company drivers. But if you're saying, like in your situation, you don't even own the truck. So kind of the situation that Prime has for their company drivers is, they own their trucks and Prime owns the trailer. So Prime basically buys our scales and puts them on their trailers. And then the truck driver has the option to buy a scale to put inside his truck. And then they can work together to kind of figure out the gross weight, at any time that he's pulling a different trailer.
Okay, so this works for lease drivers too, not just guys who outright own their own trucks. Because they're leasing their truck, they can install this system on it too.
Yeah, and actually, I think I'm not too familiar, but I think Prime, a lot of their trucks are leased.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely, and then for a lot of company drivers out there who don't have the truck yet, or the gauge yet in their truck, or if they're leasing or whatever, if there's still a gauge on the trailer that fleet has outfitted on that trailer, there's still very simple math that you can do. And we do have a YouTube video out there to figure out, okay, I don't have the gauge on my truck, but there's one on the trailer. How can I generally figure out if I need to, tell the shipper to kind of rework the loads, or if I should scale or not? So there's still guesswork in there, but I guess a little less. So there are different options for different people out there, depending on if you're an owner, operator, or company driver. It just kind of, again, just depends on your situation.
Well, I am a world-class cheapskate, but if my company that I drove for was putting these things on the trailers, I would fork it over for the tractor just so, once again, I didn't have to do a whole lot of math.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't exactly sure how that worked, because I don't really, it angers me because I'm a company driver and I want this system so I don't have to go to the scales all the time, but I don't have a say in that. I'm guessing you guys are reaching out to fleets all the time and trying to get them to install them on their tractors and their trailers. I guess that's the sales guy's job, right?
Yeah, that's definitely one of our biggest initiatives, because we definitely pride ourselves in being kind of like for the truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
So any way we can kind of position ourselves with the companies to say, hey, like, not only does this kind of help you because, I don't know how it works for company drivers in your situation, but I don't know if the company pays for the scale tickets at that level or if you guys have to kind of get reimbursed or whatever, but it saves them money and then also saves you guys so much time and effort, fuel, like you're saying, all of that stuff. So it makes sense across the board.
Yeah. Company drivers never have to pay for their own, well, rarely that I've ever seen have to pay for their own scales, but depends. I mean, sometimes it comes out of your pocket and then you got to get reimbursed, or sometimes you're able to, the company has a way to just pay for it, outright. So you don't have to even have to dig into your pocket at all. So that's handy, but it would still be nice to just be able to look down at a gauge and see it and not have, drive 90 miles to get to the nearest stinking scale,
Because you guys are still humans too. And
yeah,
that schedule and that sleep time. And yeah, for sure. Well,
and let's not forget too, that if you're dealing with the owner operator here and there who is installing it on his vehicle, that's great for you guys, but it would be really great for you guys if, US Express and Schneider and all these big companies who's got thousands of units, hey, cha-ching, you guys are going in for a bonus that year.
No kidding.
Yeah, right. That'd be awesome.
Well, I wish you the best of luck because I know every driver I've ever talked to would love a system like this, but they, what can we do? We're just peons.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the installation of this thing. You said you get a axle, or you get a weight for every axle group. So that's trailer, drives, and steers. What about like split axle drives, stuff like that? How does that work? Or or like a heavy like an oversized vehicle that's got 6 or 7 axles. How does that work?
Well, a lot of times, I'll start with the heavy vehicle question first. A lot of times with the really heavy loads, the accuracy is not as critical. So if they're on a 4-axle or 5-axle trailer, there's usually only one leveling valve running all those axles, and any of our digital gauges will still work great for those.
Okay.
But our analog gauges only go up to triaxle. So once you get over 3 axles, you have to go the digital route.
Okay. So, but the digital, like you just have one box, so to speak, but there's all kinds of different lines coming into it, and you can just specify which axle you want to know what the weight is on it. Is that the way that works?
Not exactly. So it sounds like what you're talking about is like where you have 3 axles and then you have some that you can drop.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
A lot of times when those axles drop, they become part of the other airbags.
Oh, okay. So they'd just be figured into because they tie into the other airbags, basically.
Yeah. So in that case, we have a scale that has a special mode called 4-cal mode. And so you can actually store 4 different calibration settings in there.
Oh, okay.
So like you might use cal 1 if it's just a triaxle, and you'll use cal 2 if you dropped 1, and then cal 3 if you dropped another one.
It sounds like you guys have actually thought this thing through a little bit.
We try.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Okay, so what about what are the installation costs, would you say, if you were going to have somebody to do it? Do you have any experience with that, knowing what people are paying?
Yeah, so typically, if they were going to take it to a shop, it's about a 2 to 3 hour job for someone that's never done it before.
Okay.
Yeah, it's as simple as finding a place to mount the gauge, drilling some holes, and then running the airline down to the airbag. And if you're doing digital, you've got to get power usually from a marker light or from the 7-way.
Okay. Don't make it sound that easy, because if I ever try it, I'm going to screw something up and I'm going to be pissed at you.
Well, hey, we're just a call away.
Right. Yeah. I'll just take it in. Do you guys have a shop? Do you do them on site, or do you just farm them out to these people that you have associations with?
Right. Yeah. We don't do any installations here.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many dealers there are within a 20-mile radius of our of our building, so there's really no no reason for us to be doing them.
Okay. Well, no trucker wants to go to Oregon anyway, so.
Hey now.
No, I love the state, but hey, come on, you guys got to get with it with that truck speed limit of what, 55? Is it still 55?
Yeah, and what do we have, like 2 freeways?
Yeah.
Oh, I know, it's awful. The only thing worse is going down I-5 in California. You got 700 miles of 55 mile an hour all the way. It's that drive from when the evil overlord, that's my wife, well, that's what I call her lovingly. When we used to team together, we'd get these loads from LA that would go up to Seattle or Tacoma, and it was like, oh god, we just dreaded those runs. Oh, hated it.
Yeah, going up over the passes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the passes I could handle. It's the speed limit, It's just awful. You got 55 in California, 55 in Oregon, and then you get to go up to a whopping 60 in Washington last I was out there. It's like, I mean, it's pretty bad when you got a speed limited truck like I do with my company, and I can't even do the speed limit. It's pretty bad,
Wow.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. All right, we talked about the price of these things a little bit. I noticed the first time I went to your website to check it out that had a little pop-up that said, hey, we'll give you 10% off if you want to order right now. Is that available to everybody the first time they come? Because I haven't seen it again when I've gone back.
Yeah, so it technology can kind of tell if you've been there before.
Right.
So it'll offer it up to you basically the first time you go to the site, and then if you don't kind of take up the offer, it won't bug you again. So It's kind of smart in that it doesn't want to annoy you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely want to kind of encourage anybody to make that leap because we're confident in the product. And so if you're kind of hesitant, everyone has their budget, but yeah, it's definitely still available if you visit our website.
Okay. And the website is?
www.rwls.com. So Right Way Load Scales.
Right
that
Way
acronym.
Load Scales. Okay.
Yep.
Great. And you guys also have a Facebook page, is that right? And Twitter, you do all the stuffs, right?
Yep, we do. You can just search us Right Way. We're usually the first one that pops up.
Right. Yeah, that's what I did when I was looking. I was like, well, how am I going to go, and ask these guys for the URLs for everything? And I thought, why don't I just search, you big idiot,
Yep.
Yep. You guys pop up first thing on everything.
And you can also, on our website, we've got little buttons there too for that. So.
Oh yeah, the handy dandy little icon things. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And if anybody has more questions about it, they can also call 888-818-2058. So, okay, we're not done with the interview, but I just thought I would throw that out there in case anybody is so eager to get a hold of one of these, they have to call right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's address the warranty on this product. What do we got going on there?
Well, our warranty is for 3 years on all of our products. And I mean, we stand behind everything we sell. And I mean, I've had phone calls sometimes for some of the really, we'll say tricky setups, where I've got this many lift axles and I've got this many trailers. And, sometimes it takes a while to get the calibration message across and get them up to speed on how to use it and everything. And I don't mind. I've spent hours on the phone talking to these guys. I love it. So,
yeah.
And if it turns out that there's something wrong with the product, then we will replace it. We'll cover the shipping, and we actually send out the replacement product right away, like usually the same day, with a prepaid return label for the one that failed. So.
Okay, awesome. Now you have mentioned a couple of times the calibration. I'm taking it that is a very important thing. If you don't have it calibrated right, everything's going to be screwed up, right? So is this a hard process to do? Can you kind of walk us through that, or is it too technical for an audio here?
No, everybody that buys one needs to do it. So if in the case of the analog gauge, where you've just got the pointer, you take your truck across a CAT scale or similar scale that gives you axle group weights.
Okay.
And then you just calibrate that axle group to the loaded weight. So if you go across the scale and you say, okay, my drives are 33.8, you just turn the screw on the gauge to 33.8 and you're done.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Pretty
and look,
straightforward.
And look at you guys being all nice, helping Kat get some money. That's nice of you.
Yeah, well, we need them. So
how often do you need to recalibrate?
Well, it just depends. The only thing that's really changing would be just kind of wear and tear on the suspension. That can kind of throw things for a loop. So we recommend every 6 months, but I guarantee we've got people out there that haven't touched it in years. So.
Once again, we go back to the trucker initiative. Yeah. I had a friend in one of my groups the other day. He was complaining because he had to get a light fixed when he woke up. And I said, well, did you do your walk around post trip? And he said, no, I was trying to be a martyr here. Why are you messing with me? Hey, you didn't do the job. I mean, we're all guilty of that. We pull in at the end of a 11-hour shift and you don't really want to get out in the cold, walk around your truck, so yeah. You just get lazy. Like any job, I'm sure. Okay, this next question actually comes from Aaron, who is a new member of the Trucker Dump Slack group. And yes, that would imply that members of the Trucker Dump group knew about this interview before the rest of you peeps. So yes, that's blackmail to try to join the group. So email truckerdump@gmail.com to join that group. Do it now. Anyway, he wanted to know about the, if there's a certified weight, like Cat Scale offers this thing, they say, hey, if you get caught overweight on your axle and you get a ticket for it, we'll go to court for you because we certify this. Do you guys offer anything like that?
So because of the nature of our product and that it's not necessarily like this magic tool or this automatic system, kind of like the ground scales, they're more of a tool that we need kind of the user's help using it. So for example, if they don't calibrate it correctly, or if they only calibrate, the heavy and not the empty, or if they calibrate it not on level ground, those are all things that we kind of rely on the customer to do their part in it for it to work and to be accurate. So that's the only reason we can't really guarantee any type of accuracy in terms of, if it's not, or you get an overweight ticket, we'll take care of it. But we can guarantee that if, you follow the installation instructions and you calibrate it and kind of watch the calibration, make sure you recalibrate it if it seems necessary, that it'll definitely do the job.
That makes perfect sense because, user error and, you don't have that when you're driving across a Cat scale. It's their responsibility if they're going to certify that to get their butts in there and calibrate that scale ever so often.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. And then thanks to Aaron for asking that question because I had not thought of that. Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell us just a little bit about Right Way, the company itself. You guys are based in Oregon. How long have you guys been around?
So we are out of Hillsboro, Oregon. We've been around since about 1998. The company was started by Sid Campbell, and he was basically a ice road truck driver in Alaska. I think that's where he started, and the whole idea kind of came from him, and he kind of built this product in his house, in his basement, and we've kind of evolved from there. We're still a small company, so we only have about 12, maybe 15 employees now, but we do business globally, so we do a lot of work in Australia and definitely everywhere around the States. So we're kind of have like the family-owned company kind of thing, but our roots are definitely from the truck driver, so that's kind of, our whole like value as a company is, and core values are that, we want to help the truck driver. So we try to make everything as affordable as possible. And we want these things to actually do their job.
Yeah. I was shocked at the price whenever when I was bringing you guys on, I was looking at the website and I thought, oh, these things are going to cost thousands of dollars.
Right.
That's just, cause I thought, they're going to get this back over time. So it's an investment. And I thought, they're going to charge a little bit more, but I'm shocked at how inexpensive the product is. That's awesome. And it totally makes sense that it came from Alaska. I mean, you don't have a lot of Cat scales up in Alaska,
Right.
Of course. And I do know, I have a friend, Kevin, who is who lives in Alaska, and I figured they'd kind of be lax about weights and stuff up there, but he said they are it sounds like they're much more strict about weights up there than they are down here, which kind of surprised me. But
yeah, I was actually ironically born and raised in Alaska.
Oh yeah.
So I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the roads, they kind of shrink in with the ice, so it freezes, and then when it unfreezes, the roads kind of shift a lot. So if you have a lot of overweight trucks driving on them on top of all of that, it really can mess up the roads.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you would like the listeners to know about before we go?
We definitely want them to know that we're kind of here to help the customer. So we are definitely open to any, conversation they have, any questions they have. So the phone call, Facebook is definitely a huge channel for us. So we're always available by Messenger, post your comment to our page, and also just kind of stay tuned because we're always throwing out coupons or discounts, and trying to kind of get you guys to get all the information you need.
And you do that mostly on Facebook, those coupons and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I do think it's really awesome that you guys have a phone number that, you can call. I mean, when you're working with a company like Google or something, it's like you can't get customer support for anything. I mean, half the time you can't even email them and give them, a chance to respond to you, So the fact that you guys are still a small company that has a phone number and somebody's actually going to pick up the phone is quite awesome.
Yeah, you can call that and ask for me.
Get you directly, huh?
You bet.
Who's going to answer that phone? You got a receptionist sitting up there?
Yeah, it'll usually be Angie.
Okay.
Unless she's on lunch, then it'll be one of another 10 people.
Isn't that great? In a small company, you just kind of, I'm fill in for you while you're at lunch. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so let's give those, let's see. Again, the website is rwls.com, and that stands for Right Way Load Scales. And search for Right Way Load Scales on Facebook and Twitter. And the phone number is 888-818-2058. And hey, Korina, if you'd like to send me that link to your infographic, I'll put that in the show notes so people can check that out.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely do that.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys, for coming on the show. Appreciate you helping explain this system to a dummy, because at least now I kind of understand what's going on and I can speak intelligent for once in my life.
Yeah, thank you so much for kind of giving us a chance to talk to you and explain our systems and kind of how they work.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Well, there you have it. Man, interviewing is so much more fun than just talking to my computer screen. I'm going to try to do more of these. I hope you guys are enjoying them. If you are, please let me know, truckerdump@gmail.com. I do have one correction to make. Wouldn't you know it? I had Korina spell out her last name and tell me how to say it like twice, and I got it wrong. Korina, I think I said Velasco. It's Velasco. She said it didn't really matter, but it does matter. That's her name. Anyway, I appreciate Ryan and Korina for coming on. And you know what? I feel a little bit smarter after that interview, which is pretty amazing for me. Again, if you want to contact these guys, the website is rwls.com. That stands for Right Way Load Systems. The phone number is 503-628-0838, or the toll-free number is 888-818-2058. And, of course, they're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Just search for Right Way, and you will find them, no doubt. And I will also have a link to the graphic Korina was talking about in the show notes.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Feedback. Sorry. I had to do that because Kevin, who's at Northern Crummy in our Slack group, told me that for some reason his wife got an extreme kick out of me singing the feedback theme last time. And I don't really know why she thought that was so funny. I can't imagine. I got a wonderful voice, right? Anyway, okay. Well, I'm about out of time recording tonight. I got to take off pretty quick, but I'm going to try to get a couple of these emails out, and I'll probably have to finish them up later. Anyway, let's get on with it. The first one I actually forgot to mention in the open of the show, and it's from Aaron, who is in my Slack group, and he has the creative name of Aaron. A lot of thought went into that. Anyway, he writes in about the driver's seat phenomenon. He just sent me a quick little thing in Slack, and I wrote it down. The driver's seat phenomenon was the one I'm wondering about, why drivers sit up in their driver's seat all the time and just stare out the window. And people have had different reasons, their stereo controls are up there, maybe their dog's up there and it's easy to let them out that way. Maybe they just like to watch people walk by. All kinds of different reasons. But Aaron had a different reason. He says, another reason I sit up front, when I'm at Love's, I like to make sure the two spots on either side of me have filled without ripping my fender off. Well, that can make for one long night if you're just sitting around waiting until, you get a person on each side of you. But I do understand that. Truck stops are crazy, and you never know when you're going to get hit. I mean, at the beginning of this podcast, I told you that I got hit. I did take damage, by the way, on that. I got a dented fender. The headlight's just a tad bit loose. The mirror kind of popped apart. It's kind of held together with duct tape right now, and the fender is hanging a little bit. The lower bumper, plastic bumper, but it's all still operational, and they have not yanked me into the shop to get it fixed yet. And well, I'm not going to volunteer because we all know what it's like to go to the shop and how long they take. So I'm just going to avoid it as long as I can. Anyway, Aaron, thanks for writing in, and thanks for joining the Trucker Dump Slack group. You're an active part of it now, and I appreciate you being over there. And you, too, can be a part of that group by emailing me at truckerdump@gmail.com and asking for an invitation. Or if Facebook is more your thing, go to Facebook and type in Trucker Dump Podcast Group and join over there. It's not quite as active yet because I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm trying. I got some polls over there. I'd love it if you would take it when you go over there. Well, I was right. I ran out of time way quicker than I thought I would. Now I'm recording in Indiana next day, Indianapolis. Yep, at our yard. And the repairs I was just talking about that I was avoiding as long as I could, well, they're getting done today and tomorrow. I got to wait on some parts, but it's just as well because I needed to take a 34-hour break anyway. So, hey, if you can get some work done on your truck while you're on a mandatory break, why not do it? So they're actually not going to fix my fender because it's not bad enough, or the hood, I should say, the corner of the hood. They're not going to fix that. They are going to fix the mirror, the headlight. They're going to replace the headlight and the bumper. So at least I won't have things hanging off my truck anymore. So that's good, right? All right. Where did I leave off? Next up, we have an audio clip from Greg. Haven't heard from him in a while. Okay, I have a confession to make. Greg just recently sent this in. Now, you're probably out there thinking, hey, I sent an email a while back, and it still hadn't been read on the podcast. Well, you know what? You're right. I admit I'm giving priority to audio comments. This is an audio format, after all. So, well, there's some more blackmail for you. If you want your email to be read a little bit faster, put it in audio form, then email it to me. Okay? All right. Anyway, let's get on with Greg and see what he has to say.
Hi, Todd and the rest of the trucker dumpers. Well, this is a little quickie while I'm in the dock door. I survived Grayson. I just caught the fringes of it because Jessup, where I was delivering to, didn't catch much and stuff. I guess farther down the East Coast and farther up the East Coast, they got hammered pretty well, but I missed out on all the good stuff. We just had a light dusting where I was at. So, now, I haven't had much encounter with snow so far this winter, so it's been going good so far. Okay, well, this is Greg checking in from Riverside, California. getting ready to go and do a swap and head up to the Bay Area. So anyway, okay. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye now.
Bye, Greg, and my condolences on heading to the Bay Area. I feel sorry for you. I've been pretty lucky with the weather myself this year. Grayson, I was in upstate New York at the time, and they sent me, my next load they sent me was heading right down into the junk. And thankfully, before they had me pick it up, they realized it was going to be late because of the storm, so they just rescheduled it, so I got pulled off that load. And thankfully, I got sent to a different part of Pennsylvania that was further west, and so I got to kind of go right over the top of the storm and cut in behind it. So it was just perfect for me. I have been shut down just a little bit in the snow this year. I got shut down in just south of Cincinnati. I had 120 miles to go to deliver a FedEx load, and I end up being 24 hours late because my company shuts me down in bad weather. But, oh well, what are you going to do? Unpaid, by the way. I really hate that, but what are you going to do? All right, Greg. Well, thanks for sending that little quickie in and updating us what's going on. Always love to hear from you. All right, this next email is from Danielle, and it's a long one, and she warned me about it right in the beginning. But you know what? I thought it had some really good information in it, and quite honestly, anybody who spends this much effort into an email is going to get read on the show. So it would have been better if she would have turned it in audio, maybe next time, Danielle. But anyway, let's get on with this. Let me read it to you. She says, "Hi, my name is Danielle, and my husband and I just started listening to your podcast. First to warn you, this is a really long email, and I apologize in advance." Well, warned you guys. Told you. She says, "My dad's been driving for around 30 years, several of those with me riding along in the truck, and my husband just started about 10 months ago. I ride along as a passenger and assistant, helping with paperwork and food and such. Well, welcome to the industry, Robert and Danielle. Hope y'all are enjoying it so far." She says, "Over the years as a backseat driver," man, what is it with that backseat driving? That'd be really bad to have a ride-along passenger in your truck that backseat drove. That'd be awful. Don't do that, Danielle. Anyway, she says, "Over the years as a backseat driver, I've learned a few tricks and tips for different aspects of being healthy on the road that I wanted to share with you. I heard on a few of the feedbacks that drivers were worried about their health. Yeah, the problem is drivers are worried about their health, but most of them aren't willing to do a darn thing about it. Oh, well, anyway, we got to keep trying, right? First, she says, almost every trucker I know of refuses to bring medicine. About 98% of drivers are men, and all women know that men are big babies when they're sick." Oh, that's so true. She says, "I make sure that we have all the basics all over the counter. Pain relief medicine, Dayquil, Tums or Pepto, whatever your preference is, immune boosters like Emergen C, zinc, or Echinacea. I've never heard of that one. To try and fight a cold before it hits. A good multivitamin for the days you can't get a balanced meal, and of course, a first aid kit. Now, I don't know how many times I've seen my dad wrap his cuts with duct tape. That is such a man thing to do. Oh, I'd like to say I've never done that, but oh well." She continues, "And then whatever other medications you will regularly take. I recommend other stomach medicines due to all the junk food most drivers eat." Who, us? Never. "There's absolutely no reason to go on working 14 days feeling like crap when you can knock most common illnesses out with a couple days with these over-the-counter medicines." That is true. Thankfully, I'm rarely sick, so I have that to be blessed with. She says, "Next is food. I heard you talking about keeping healthy snacks on the road next to you, and I definitely agree with that. We keep fruits, nuts, and meat snacks for iron and protein, and also a big pack of mint gum for alertness and to put off the munchies." Yeah, that gum trick is awesome. It's amazing what that will do if you want to munch and just grab a stick of gum. I keep some gum in here too for that very reason. And it's mint also. Spearmint, I believe. She says, "However, we, mainly just I, cook a lot as well." I know that. I never cooked anything in the truck when the evil overlord was out here with me. It really sucks that I got a microwave now. It's really awful. It's hard work. She says all we have is a lunchbox cooker you can pick up at just about any truck stop and a cooler that plugs into the cigarette lighter because we have a limit on how big of an inverter we can have. Well, that sucks. I've been in that boat too. That really sucks. She says I'll put some of the recipes below in a separate section so you don't have to read them, but most of them you can just put in and forget about for at least an hour. And most of the ingredients are pretty cheap. Yeah, she did send some recipes, and I'm going to make a little special blog post out of these. So there'll be a link in the show notes, and I'll get those up as soon as I can. Let's see what else she has to say. The main thing we struggle with is getting enough to drink. We go through a lot of soda, tea, water, and Gatorade in a week. It's what we spend the most money on. One thing we do try to cut cost is we have the big 44-ounce cup from Love's, which any truck stop will let you refill for $2 or less. If you have the rewards card, you can also earn free refills. Yeah, that's a great thing about the Love's card. Pilot used to do that, but that's been years since they've done that. She says if you just refill it with ice or water, it's free anyway. For the soda, we try to only buy at Walmart when we stop there and in bulk so we don't have to buy at the truck stops where it's usually way overpriced. Usually? No, it's always way overpriced. Same thing for Gatorade. In the bathroom area, we try to shower at least every 2 or 3 days. We reapply deodorant every day and just brush our teeth out the window with a bottle of water. One of the biggest pet peeves I have in the women's bathroom are the women who hover over the toilet seat to save themselves from germs. Ugh. Yeah, that is. Ugh. The pee splatters all over the floor and seat for the next woman to deal with. Also, sadly, a lot of women don't wash their hands, thinking it's cleaner to avoid touching the faucets. Gross, she says. You know, women hovering, at least they're closer to the bowl than men are. You know, a lot of men, they don't lift the seat. They don't do anything. And you go in there and there's just whiz all over it. I can't count how many times I have just passed on. I'm like, I can hold it. I'll wait till the next bathroom because that's gross and I'm not going in there. And, you know, in all fairness, the truck stops, they send people in there to clean it, but they just can't keep up. I mean, there's so many truckers in and out of those things all the time. They'd have to have a full-time attendant in there. By the way, truck stops, you want to make a big impact on this industry? Hire a full-time bathroom attendant. That would be awesome. I'm not tipping them, though, so don't even go there. Anyway, you mentioned you shower every 2 to 3 days. I don't know why. Do you just not feel you need to more often because you're not doing anything other than sitting in the truck? I guess I can see that because, you know, you're not sweating a lot in trucking. I just feel like if I can get one every day and I'm getting it for free on rewards, I'm going to stop and do that because showering is one of the best parts of the day when you just get to stand under the water for 10 or 20 minutes, you know, depending on the shower weight. Shower time is awesome. It's the best thing about trucking, which is not saying much for trucking, but there you go. So anyway, I'm just saying you can fit in more showers if you want to. And anybody who says that they can't, well, they need to find a new job. If there's not enough time for you to shower, you need a new job. Anyway, more about these toilet seats. She says if you're truly worried about the cleanliness of the seats, just bring in a couple of Lysol wipes and wipe it down before you sit. This is what I do whenever a truck stop looks particularly icky. It's healthier for you and courteous to the women who come after you. And if you're really that scared off of the faucets, you can always use a paper towel to turn them off or bring extra wipes for that. You know, Danielle, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. And I see this not all the time, but way more than I should. I will come out of a stall or come from a urinal or whatever. I'm walking up to wash my hands and there is a faucet just running. And I'm like, what is going on? I didn't honestly know. I just thought somebody was forgetting. But I actually saw a guy do it one day. He washed his hands. He left the water running. He went over, got the paper towel, wiped his hands off, walked out. I guess he doesn't want to reach back and germify himself by touching the handle again. But for Pete's sake, he's got the paper towel in his hands. That frustrates me to no end. I mean, some of these times you wonder how long these things are running before somebody turns it off. I've actually watched other truckers walk by it, look over at it, and then just keep walking. I don't know. I'm not a germaphobe. I don't freak out about that stuff, so I don't really care who's touched it last. I just reach over and turn it off. Drives me nuts. Anyway, speaking of mental health, She says this job is rated as one of the top most stressful careers out there. It's important to keep your cool because stress can really do a number on your physical health, and one of the things people say pay the least attention to. At night, as we're going to sleep, we play meditation videos off of YouTube. These are great because they help you fall asleep faster and sleep better, and they continue to calm your subconscious while you sleep. Yeah, I don't use any kind of white noise machine or anything like that at home, or here on the road, but the evil overlord and I do at home. She doesn't use one when I'm gone because she wants to hear somebody comes in the front door and she wants to reach for the 44 special and get, lined up on the door. But when I'm home, we enjoy that. And I think, quite honestly, it helps her because I snore. So and I don't use one out here. I do love to park by reefers, though. It gives me the same type of effect. I know I'm weird like that, but hey, what are you going to do? I'm just glad because most people will avoid spots with reefers, and that leaves me a nice spot. Anyway, she says, I know I said we drink a lot of tea and soda, but caffeine will elevate your stress level and your heart rate. It's important to keep in contact with people as well. Call home to friends and family every day. Speak to other truckers out there. Listen to whatever music makes you happy. Even though you're living in the truck, it doesn't mean your entire life should be about trucking. Boy, some truckers should learn that lesson. She says, my husband keeps an Xbox on board to unwind after a long day of driving. We listen to podcasts like yours and to audiobooks. And every once in a while, when we get the chance, we Uber to a theater to watch a movie or go have a nice dinner. Yeah, as a team, it's very important to get out every now and then and just enjoy each other's company without, being in the truck. I agree with that. Great tip. And she says, one little random tip, if you carry a wallet, do not keep it in your back pocket. My dad did this for a long time until one day he couldn't stand up anymore. All that time his wallet, even though it wasn't but an inch thick, had been pressing his hips and lower back out of alignment just from sitting on it while he drove. The first thing the chiropractor asked when he went in was, where do you keep your wallet? This is a common problem that will continually worsen over time. Keep your butts flat or break your own darn back. Yeah, I read this tip a long time ago somewhere, and I have done that. I always carry it in my front pocket. Even when I'm home, it's just in my front pocket. And another aspect of that is it's really hard for somebody to pickpocket something out of your front pocket, unless they're willing to reach down at your junk, I think I would feel that, whereas they're pretty good at getting stuff out of back pockets. So there's an extra aspect of that. It's a good idea. She finishes up. Anyhow, I apologize for this extremely long email, especially considering I'm not a driver myself, but hopefully the passengers aspect gives you a new view on trucking. We love your podcast so far from what we've heard. I don't know if you've already covered any of these topics because we haven't gotten to them yet, but you're great. Thanks for casting, and we'll keep listening. Well, thank you. I appreciate what you said. Nice to be appreciated. I have covered some of these topics, and you'll get to it eventually, but, we can never cover the health part aspect of trucking enough because, man, it is a huge problem. I think someone reported last time, I think it was Renee, who wrote in and said that she had heard that there was truckers have like this huge life expectancy gap between the rest of the normal public. Like we're more apt to die, like, I can't remember, it was like 10 or 15 years earlier than the average person. And that's scary. So anyway, thanks for writing in, Danielle. Hope you and Robert stay safe out there. If you got any questions, any more comments, write in, or better yet, leave an audio comment. Love to hear from you guys. And like I said, there are 3 or 4 recipes in here. 5? Yeah, 5. And I will, I'll make a blog post of those out of one day. It may not be right away because I'm pretty busy right now, but I'll get to it eventually. Promise. Although you may have to remind me. Okay, who do we got next? All right, next up we got a little back and forth from Trevor. It's a little 2-parter, but we're not going to call him Trevor. He writes, "Hey Todd, you can call me Kool-Aid." Great name. Your debacle is not particular to yourself. Okay, this is concerning episode 124, the overweight axle debacle, where I had problems at a shipper and I had to keep going back. I think I got reloaded 5 times before they got it right. Check that out, episode 124. Link in the show notes. Anywho, he says, I had the exact same scenario happen to me at the exact same location. That damn door 291. Yeah, he remembers it too. He says, I did 2 reworks, then ran out of hours. Luckily, our company has an operating center less than a mile from the Carlisle Flying J, so I parked there for the night to get a shower, some food, and try to relax from the irritations of the day. This particular load was the one getting me home. Go figure, right? Well, of course it was the load getting you home. Thankfully, mine was not. So, whew, thank God for that. Anyway, he says, the next day I went back for a 3rd rework, and they finally got it loaded right. I was worried, though, that I wasn't going to get the load dropped at a drop lot 4 hours away, then drive the 45 minutes home before my clock ran out for the day. I pulled it off, getting to my house within 11 minutes left on my 14 hours. Wow. Yeah, I've been in that position. You know, the last time I went home, I literally was 1 minute over. I hit the exit ramp. There's a little cloverleaf exit ramp to the Flying J in Joplin where I park. And right as I pulled off on that exit ramp, click, it went to 0. And I thought, dang it, I was so close. But so far, company hadn't said anything. So no harm, no foul, right? He continues, so I totally understand your predicament since I also went through the same thing. You can tell this happens a lot there by the way the guards would roll their eyes or shake their head when they saw you come back again and again. Yeah, they did that to me too, but they swore that it didn't happen that often, and I didn't believe it. Anyway, it is kind of odd, though, because this was a Unilever facility, and I've rarely had any problems with overweight loads at any of the other ones. I guess this place just has a problem, which is ironic because they're like one of the only Unilevers on the planet that doesn't have a scale on site. Wouldn't you know it? Anyway, he says, I'm a new listener and a new driver. I found your podcast in the podcast app on my phone when I first started driving, but I didn't start listening to your episodes until about a week ago. I'm enjoying your take on the trucking industry. Your shows are informational and humorous, and they help me get through those long days. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Kool-Aid. And I appreciate you telling me where you heard about the podcast. I'm always interested in that, and I can rarely get an answer out of new listeners because it just seems like they don't even remember how they found the podcast. So it's great that you were just searching through the podcast app and found it and subscribed. I do appreciate that. He finishes up this first email by saying, I've been driving solo for about 2.5 months, and I'm enjoying it so far. I've had a couple minor accidents. Uh-oh, what were those? He says, I clipped a telephone pole attempting to set up a back into a dock with my tandems at the rear and smashed another truck's mirror when backing into a truck spot. Yeah, well, the mirror thing, that's a rookie mistake. We've all done that before. Don't worry about it. And those were both within the first 3 weeks. He says, since then, I've gotten better at backing and knowing when to get out and look before accidents happen. Yep, that is the key. Can't wait to hear your next podcast. Keep up the great work. Well, this was written on December 15th, I believe. So I will admit that this one got bumped up a little bit, too, because I really wanted to answer this next question. All right. Okay, let me put out a warning first. Brian in Australia, I know you said you appreciate the podcast being clean because it's only one your daughter listens to. Well, you might want to have her shut off here. I'm not going to get crazy, but since it's a little bit of a sensitive topic. Okay. You got her earmuffs on? Okay, here we go. All right, he writes back in and says, hey, it's Kool-Aid again. I've been binge listening to your episodes, and I haven't heard anything yet regarding how you and your wife went about having intimacy and sex. I can't even say that without stumbling. Went about having intimacy. See, I can't say it. Intimacy and sex, or sex, whatever, during your team driving time together. If you don't mind, I'd like to hear your input on this subject. My wife and I have been pondering the idea of her getting her CDL so we could do some team driving, either over summers when the kids aren't in school or once they've left the house for good. I've heard your podcast explaining the cautions you have for other couples delving into the idea of over-the-road life. My wife and I are best friends. We love spending almost all of our time together, so my new venture into a trucking career has left us both missing each other immensely. We know each other's flaws and faults, and I truly believe we could make it work in this lifestyle together. Although I must admit, I'm not very fond of her current driving skills. Uh-oh. The issue of having time for intimacy while team driving, at least the way I perceive team driving to be, since I haven't done any team driving so far in my short career, it seems to be somewhere in the range of slim and none. Am I correct in this assumption, or is there something I'm missing? He did ask me he did say if I was uncomfortable talking about this on the podcast that he'd be happy just to get a return email from me. But this is something I've never really addressed on the show, and I am just winging it. I don't have anything prepared. So getting jiggy on the road is tricky, depending on who you are. I'm pretty sure there's some exhibitionist type people out here who don't really care and just do what they got to do. If you've only been in the industry a couple of months, you will probably see this before too long. You'll be walking by a row of trucks going into the truck stop to take a shower or something, and you'll see the truck just hopping up and down. The suspension, well, not the suspension, but the little airbag things on the back of the cab are just going to town, and you're thinking, yeah, get it, buddy. The problem is I don't know what's going on in there. It could be a someone at who's has their profession doing that at the lots. I don't know. It could be husband-wife team. I'm guessing it's probably husband-wife team more than anything. Anyway, it is very tricky. Clearly, these people don't care. Now, I will say we have the Evil Overlord, and I have done that in the truck many, many times, but she's way more particular about it than I am. Maybe I'm got some exhibitionist in me. I don't know, but I don't really care. I know guys are going to give me thumbs up when I come out, but oh no. Anyway, she was always super paranoid about it and didn't want to be, looked at weird when we got out of the truck or whatever. So if we ever did it, we were always careful about, not getting too crazy. And I will say that the truck does have a tendency to rock side to side more than it does front to back. So if you know what I mean there, you might want to adjust positions a little bit. There is always the truck stop showers. I'm sure some jigginess goes on in those showers. Just don't take all day, please. There's people waiting for those showers. And once again, I think this may have happened to me in the Evil Overlord maybe once, but back then the showers were a lot grosser and you didn't really want to touch anything. Well, except for each other. And she was always super paranoid about, some perv having a little camera up in the vent or something too. So that didn't happen very often. So, you know what? There's always hotels, team drivers especially, I think, have a tendency just to, stop every once in a while, get out of the truck, spend the night in the hotel. You can get your business on there. Or, if you're not out on the road for that long, it can wait, especially the older you get, when you're young and you're newly married and everything, you can't keep your hands off each other. And I understand that. But, once you get married, the Evil Overlord and I have been married for 24 years this past November. You can wait 2 weeks if you want to. It's really not that big of a deal. You'll learn one of these days that sex is not the be all end all of the world. You can survive without it, and it's just fine. So anyway, I hope this addresses the issue without getting too graphic or gross. If this offended anybody, well, tough nuggies. I guess it is what it is. Anyway, Kool-Aid, welcome to the industry. Appreciate you being out here, and I hope you and your wife actually team if it sounds like something cool. I don't know if it would be worth it for her to get her CDL just to drive during the summers. It might, but, she might just want to ride along during the summer. Who knows? But, yeah, definitely once the kids are out of school and gone and everything, then, yeah, it would be great if she had her CDL. And it sounds like you guys are very much like the Evil Overlord and me and how we get along and we like to hang out together. We have the same sense of humor. We've actually worked lots of jobs together before trucking, so it was not a surprise at all when we got together in the truck. So anyway, I wish you best of luck on that either way. Well, it looks like this thing's gone on at over an hour and 45 minutes. So this is probably my second longest podcast ever. I think the interview with Kevin, the winter driving thing, was a bit longer than that, but I guess it's time to wrap this thing up. Once again, I'd like to thank East Insurance Group for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Check them out at eastinsurancegroup.com/truckerdump, all one word. And hey, for all you truck owners out there, it never hurts to get a second opinion on your insurance. So give East Insurance Group a call at 443-304-9927 for your free quote. All right, let's put her in gear and get out of here. All right, if you've got questions or comments for this episode or any of the past ones, please shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com. And remember, audio comments are going to get priority, so quit being so shy and fire up that voice recording here. You can also request your invite to the Trucker Dump Slack group through that email, or you can join a bunch of Apple-loving truckers in the iTrucker Slack group by emailing itruckers@icloud.com. I can still be found on Twitter at Todd McCann. It's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. You can find all the links in today's episode in the show notes in your podcast app, or you can go to abouttruckdriving.com and search for TD126. You can leave your comments there too. And don't forget about the Facebook group. Well, thanks for listening again. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. On today's show, great, this is starting out wonderful. And I wanted to give you this resource. It's a frequently asked questions on man, I spit all over myself on that one. Okay, let's finish up all this bat pack. Wow, I can't say that word. All right, let's finish up all these back. All right, let's finish up all this bat packing. Wow. All right, so let's finish up all this back padding. Great, now I said it right, and I lost my train of thought because I finally got it right. Recording, check 1, check 2. Can you give me a check, guys, on both of you? Separate.
Check 1, check 2.
Check 1, check 2.
Aha! You guys feel professional now.
Yeah.
This next question actually came from one of the guys in my Trucker Dump Slack. Let me start that over. Okay, this this is where the bloopers come in. Uh-huh. Ta-da!
All done?
All done.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know when to talk.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. No, you guys did great. You didn't. A lot of times, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've only done a few interviews, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and you'll hear, if you've got two guests on the other end, they don't know when to talk, and they like start talking over each other, and and you got to kind of go, whoa, wait. No, Korina, you take this question, and kind of control it. But you guys must have been like pointing at each other.
We've been using sign language over here.
You answer that one.
Side glares.
I'm glad you guys weren't whispering. You answer that one.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Okay, well, if I'm not going to have both pictures, it would be a little weird to have a picture of you and not Ryan, so I'll just probably leave them both off. I know.
We'll find you.
The evil overlord is camera shy, too. She doesn't like it. She's like this fictional character in the background that people love her because I tell stories about her and stuff, but nobody's ever seen her or knows what she is. I've actually been accused of her being a him before because I always call her the evil overlord. Nope, not a dude.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious.
Oh, you can tell by the way I leave. Oh God, I'm an idiot.